Victory in the Hindi Heartland, Ram Mandir done, Bihar government done. It seems it's the Uniform Civil Code and Citizenship Amendment Act next. The government at this moment virtually running circles around the opposition, and the opposition at this moment seeming completely clueless about how to respond and react. To talk about this, we're joined on this broadcast by Shahzad Poonawalla, national spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. I want to tell our viewers that the Congress decided not to join this discussion. We have Tahseen Poonawalla, who leans towards the Congress and the opposition. He's joining us on this broadcast. Tahseen, amongst various things, is one of the petitioners in the case against the Citizenship Amendment Act in the Supreme Court. Rahul Verma is a fellow at the Center for Policy Research. Gupta Madhusudhan is the author of A New Idea of India. I want to go across to Madhusudhan Gupta first, because we have a situation at this moment where the government seems to have an arsenal of ideas, events, IPs, ideological points lined up, and they're going one after another with a breathless pace trying to roll them out. The opposition at this moment seeming completely clueless. From what we can see at this moment, are you picking up the sense that that's the way it's likely to stay all through February, March and April as well?
Thank you, Rahul, for having me. Today is a very important discussion that you've brought up. Absolutely, I fully agree with you. In any competitive democracy, you know, in literature, there is something called median voter theorem, which is a fancy way of saying politics is competitive. People come to the middle of the electorate. Here, what we are seeing is the broader opposition is becoming appeasing towards the Muslim minority in India, therefore leaving the entire space to the BJP. It's almost a default victory as far as the BJP is concerned. Whether you look at the Ram Mandir, whether you look at CAA, whether you look at UCC, all of these should be common sense issues. If the Congress or the broader opposition would lay claim to these issues, then we would have debate on other issues. But this is because precisely Rahul Gandhi-led Congress, unlike Rajiv Gandhi or Indira Gandhi, have decided to double down on the minority appeasement, which is why he cannot win an election from Uttar Pradesh and has to go to Kerala. That is the reason why what you are describing is absolutely accurate.
Tahseen Poonawalla, we heard yesterday from Congress leaders that Rahul Gandhi's yatra is not a political yatra. It's not meant at the elections. Now, if elections are to be announced in a few weeks from now and the leader of a major party is doing a yatra which is not aimed at the elections, people watching this telecast would wonder what in the world is going on. A politician doing a yatra. He's not running an NGO, mind you. His task, amongst various things, is to help the Congress come back to power. He's doing a yatra which is not aimed at the elections, which is not a political yatra. If he wants to rebuild the Congress, surely that's something that should be done after the elections. At this moment, focus on winning whatever the Congress can and whatever the opposition can. He seems to have his priorities all wrong.
Good evening, Rahul. Thank you so much for having me on the show. At the onset, I agree with you to a limited point that the BJP does seem to be in pole position. But you, who's very experienced as a journalist, know no election is over until it's over. And, you know, the Congress still can do well in 2024. Having said that, I think we need to distinguish between the Ram Mandir issue and the CAA and the UCC issue. For one, that the BJP spokesperson is here, the very erudite spokesperson. The UCC, they've got it in a state.
You're going to give each other compliments like this?
No, I'm going to expose the BJP's hypocrisy, and I'm going to use your platform without hitting below the belt.
So that was just the butter before the actual attack. Go on. Yes.
But let's ask some very logical questions. Now that the UCC has been announced in one state, why could it not have been done nationwide? And I'll tell you why. Because this is, except that they want to try and bring the minorities in. And I'm saying this on your show, Rahul, with absolute responsibility. UCC has nothing to do with minorities, in particular with Muslims. Point number one, Rahul. UCC in this country, India, in the Republic of India, already exists from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, Nagaland to Gujarat. The Special Marriage Act, which deals with marriage, divorce, succession rights, one country, one law across the length and breadth of this country. I got married in the Special Marriage Act. UCC already exists. Number two, where the state that has UCC, the model state of Goa, where the BJP is in government, on 3rd July 2023, I quote, the Chief Minister of Goa to India Today says, UCC will not be amended. You know why it will not be amended, Rahul? Because in Goa, a male about 35 years of age, Hindu, if he doesn't have a male child, can marry the second time. They will not amend that. In Gujarat, from where the Honorable Prime Minister and Home Minister come, there is something called Maitri Karar, where a Hindu male can officially have another woman who's not his wife on contract established by government. They will not amend that or talk about that.
No, but how do you know they won't amend all of this? When the Uniform Civil Code comes...
Tell the BJP, because the Goa Chief Minister told India today, there is no need to amend it. He told India today.
That may be his view, but if the government takes a different point of view, then that view will prevail. But okay, let me put that question to the other Mr. Poonawalla. You've already been described by Tahseen as being highly erudite, but the fact is that the Citizenship Amendment Act has been hanging for a long time. The Home Minister has spoken multiple times to me and to others saying that he will implement it soon. It hasn't happened. If this were to get implemented now, the likes of Tahseen, those in the Congress and the opposition will say this is being done to now try and polarize the election. If you were so confident of your development agenda, you wouldn't need to resort to things which are highly communal or highly polarizing. That's your next aim, that Ram Mandir is done, now let's try and polarize around communal lines. That's the charge. Let Shahzad Poonawalla demonstrate his erudition.
First of all, let me return the compliment to Tahseen by saying that he is an extremely intelligent person, and therefore perhaps he very smartly comes here disguised as a political analyst and has never taken the membership of the Congress party. So I concede that he is extremely intelligent. And
he may want to be in the Congress. Does the Congress want him? That's a different matter. You're not getting into very raw nerves.
Well, you know, I think that if the Congress doesn't want him, then who does the Congress want? They don't want Milind, they don't want Mamta, they don't want Mayawati, they don't want many other leaders who have given them terms and conditions. Anyways, let's leave that discussion for another day. Now let's come to what Tahseen is saying and what you have referred to. Rahul, either you have to say that already it is too late for the CAA, or you say that the CAA is polarizing and communal. You can't say both the things together. And if indeed the Congress party is saying that CAA is polarizing and communal, then pray Mahatma Gandhi in 1947 September advocated for CAA when he said that the minorities in Pakistan and Bangladesh, because Bangladesh was not created by then, should be entitled to come back to the country and that the Indian government should make arrangements for them if they want to. In fact, in 2003, when Mr. Manmohan Singh was the leader of the opposition, he got up in Parliament and he besieged the then Deputy Prime Minister L.K. Advani, the Home Minister, that immediately a law should be made which would secure the rights of minorities in Pakistan and Bangladesh. I have the video. I don't want to waste time playing it. After that, the UPA government, when it was in power, came up with a law that applied to 2 or 3 states where the citizenship was granted to minorities from Pakistan. Apart from that, the Committee of Home Affairs was also, which was headed by Pranab Mukherjee and also had people like Kapil Sibal, in fact went on to the extent to say that only minorities from Pakistan and Bangladesh should be granted citizenship. So now tell me, are these people communal? Were they advocating for something communal? Or in fact, are we now walking the talk of Mahatma Gandhi and all the other principles that Mahatma Gandhi was advocating for? Similarly on UCC, Tahseen Poonawalla comes here and takes one stand, that is fine. But the Congress party on the other hand opposes UCC. For instance, their Kerala leader of opposition is opposed to UCC. I just have a couple of questions for Tahseen. Why does the Congress party, which was the one which put it in the Article 44 Directive Principle of State Policy when it was in the Constituent Assembly, why is it when it was in power in Goa, when it was implemented, now opposing UCC? How has it suddenly become a communal project? How is it suddenly now seeing all these kinds of things that have come up and it was not seen back then? Is it purely because of vote bank politics? Because we've seen Shah Banu to Shaira Banu, wherever the Congress gets an opportunity to put at the altar of convenient politics women's rights and women's empowerment, it does that. And therefore today,
the fact
Congress
is
party,
that most people who are watching at this time would think that having a uniform civil code is actually a good idea. The problem with the opposition going on the wrong side of these moves is, A, at some level the Congress would have wanted to do it themselves. They never could muster the courage to be able to actually walk the talk, which is why it was always a directive principle, never actually something that they sought to implement actively. Now that the BJP is doing it, and by opposing it, you seem to be opposing just for the sake of opposition.
No, Rahul. No, Rahul. With respect, you're wrong there. In 1954, the Congress brought in the Special Marriage Act, which is exactly what the UCC is. What does the UCC not give you? What does the Special Marriage Act not give you? From Jammu and Kashmir to Kanyakumari, it's one act across the country. Now, in the Northeast, even in the UCC that they are talking about across the country, they are saying there'll be exceptions for Northeast. So, look, what you're doing, what you're planning to do in Uttarakhand or Goa is not UCC. It is state common civil code. It's not union civil code. If it is, please tell us it will apply even in the Northeast. They won't. But let me come to the question of CA and
No, but that's not an
expose the
illogical
BJP.
way of doing it, Tahseen. If you can do it in states where it's easier to implement, you can allow for it to play itself out for a few years. Others can see that it's not so draconian in the end and that people are benefiting. And that's how you can build that's how you can build consensus around it. If you go into areas where it's highly contentious, you'll have a backlash and that will not get the job done.
Fair point. Fair point. So then in Goa, where it already exists, which the Congress got in, why is their chief minister telling India today the provision where a Hindu man can marry a second time if he doesn't have a boy child will never be removed? He told
This
India
concern,
today
Shahzad, that in states where there are particular ironies in the law which are beneficial in a local circumstance, even whether you're Hindu or any other religion, you still want to keep those. Therefore, the concern whether it will actually be a uniform civil code or just done in a very selective fashion.
You know, Tahseen Poonawalla, apart from being very smart and not joining the Congress party officially, is also the only barber in the world who does the hajamat of a baby that hasn't been born. As Tahseen Poonawalla knows, that at the national level, the Law Commission has received over 1 crore suggestions over a central draft of the UCC. And in states where we've committed as part of our manifesto, their committees have been formed, drafts have been created. Now, as far as I am concerned, in Goa, no such process has been started or no such draft has been consulted upon. So Tahseen Poonawalla is trying to predict the name or the gender or things of a baby which has not been born yet. In Uttarakhand, the draft will be in front of us in some time. The cabinet will approve it. Look at that draft and then come to conclusions.
Sure.
But having said that, I want to ask Tahseen Poonawalla. He said because just 10 seconds. Tahseen Poonawalla said there's a Special Marriage Act, therefore we don't need UCC. Tahseen, let me give you an example. Supposing you have 3 daughters and those 3 daughters choose to marry one Hindu, one Muslim and one Parsi according to their religious laws, to their personal laws. Then Tahseen, tell me that on divorce, the girl that marries the Hindu man has different rights from those that marry the Muslim man and those that marry the Parsi man. Why should on divorce one girl have different rights? The same family girl have different rights. She should have the same rights.
I want to go to Rahul as well.
On divorce, whether she divorces A or B or C.
Okay, Tahseen, 10 seconds, I want to go to Rahul as well.
Yeah, just 10 seconds, I agree with other panelists. Shahzad's question itself is wrong, therefore the answer will be wrong. If I hypothetically have 3 girls and they were to marry 3 people of different religion, that would anyways fall under the Special Marriage Act. How can a girl born to me marry under the Hindu Act or the Parsi Act? It's not allowed. Again, you see how the BJP misleads. And the UCC already exists in Goa. Why don't they remove the temptation?
Here's what I want to say. I spoke to the Chief Minister of Uttarakhand this evening, and the fact is that the final draft of the Uniform Civil Code isn't in his hands either. It's still with the committee that's going to give the draft. Till the time you see what is being sought to be implemented, a lot of this is up in the air. But what we know, Rahul Verma, is you got a minister announcing that the Citizenship Amendment Act is going to be introduced in a week, even if it isn't a week, but he's signaled direction and intent. We know that the UCC in Uttarakhand at least will come in early February. It seems these are the 2 next 10 polls. One, on the impact this will have. B, the fact that the BJP has a full arsenal which they're going bang bang with, and the opposition can't even figure out how to respond.
Your question also has the answer in it, Rahul. You are absolutely right. See, you have to think about since 2019, and by the time we head into polls in April, May 2024, you would see an ideological arc that had been placed by BJP on India's political map, right from abrogation of Article 370 and then Bhumi Pujan of Ram Mandir in Ayodhya, introduction of CA and RC, and many other things happening in between, usage of the term Bharat instead of India in G20, then Ram Mandir in so many, the name of Indian Penal Code being changed, Ram Temple inauguration happening, and now the conversation on UCC and CA. In that sense, what BJP has done, combined the nationalism plank and Hindutva plank and the decolonization plank into one. So each of these pieces are part of a larger political narrative with which BJP is going into this point.
But are these helping the BJP attract new voters, or are they largely just serving the purpose of energizing the base?
See, you do both by this. Unless you energize the base, you cannot attract new voters. And if you don't attract new voters, you cannot expand yourself. And so BJP is basically doing two things: energizing the base and expanding things, but also by swiftly moving from one issue to the other, it's keeping the opposition confused. Opposition is not able to figure out which one issue to tackle and take on. It continues to create a camouflage. Think about when the women's reservation bill was passed in the parliament. For entire 10 days, everyone, including on this show, was debating what all could be actually discussed in the parliament. This is one way of basically creating a camouflage, keeping the opposition off the guard, and setting the agenda of politics the way they want it to be. And so BJP has been a master of this game, at least for last few years. We have seen in the politics, in Indian politics, and Congress and opposition. You rightly
Now, Nitish's
mentioned
departure can have two different kinds of impacts. One is that the opposition begins to fritter away further, that they realize the futility of being with the Congress and start trying to do their own number, or opposition parties could get paranoid that now Nitish is also gone, therefore the delay that we are seeing in seat sharing actually gets negated because they now really hunker down and do as much as can be done. Which of the two do you think is more likely?
Rahul, the question, I think we are focusing on a completely wrong question about 2024 arithmetic. 2024 election results are going to be decided by what happens in northwestern India. If Congress cannot push BJP, if BJP continues to win northwestern India as it won in 2014 and 2019, it doesn't matter what seat sharing is happening in West Bengal and Tamil Nadu, because by that time BJP would be in striking distance of power. If it wins 200, 220 seats in the northwestern India, then it will pick seats here and there, and it would be around 250, 270. So it's not a... See, we have been confusing. There are three separate questions. Can opposition come together? Can they get to seat sharing? And can they put a challenge to BJP? These are three different questions. What we were trying to do, if opposition comes together, they'll put a challenge to BJP. This is not going to happen automatically. Even if they do seat sharing arrangement, which is happening in UP, do you think BJP will be pushed aside in UP given the political climate that has been developed? So it's not a question of like seat sharing. The opposition needs a clear political articulation of ideas on which they are going to contest 2024, and now it's too late for it. We can all sort of like be cautious and say elections are not over till the day they are over, but you can't prepare on the last day of the exam and think you are going to get 100% marks.
Let Tahseen respond to this. You can't prepare on the last day and think that you laced the exam. It's simply not possible. The fact is the opposition has already lost so much time that this whole thing seems an exercise in futility now.
True, that I completely concede to what Rahul is saying, even more to the northwest versus the south and east. Even assuming the Congress and the alliance was to win everything in south and east India, that's 200 seats. I'm rounding it up. 300 is where the BJP strikes 90%. I concede to all those points. And I do agree on the narrative. Where my problem is, and since I'm a petitioner in CA, is to bring in laws, because the BJP is so much forward, just to fulfill a political agenda, not to give justice actually. The BJP spokesperson isn't even allowing me to go to the northeast, where UCC will not be implemented, said the BJP when the first time they removed the UCC thing. They will not implement it. In CA, they gave exception to the northeast. They got the blue line permits out. But Rahul, may I ask one fundamental question to the BJP spokesperson, or why are you? If CA is so important, I think it should come. It's got nothing to do with Muslims. Article 7 of our constitution already gives the government rights to give Pakistan citizens who are Indian origin citizenship. You could have forwarded that. The fact is, why this is anti-Hindu, not actually anti-Muslim CA, which is the issue I'm fighting on. And I'll just take 30 seconds. Assuming a Rohingya Hindu from Myanmar or a Tamil Hindu from Sri Lanka who's been persecuted religiously has come to India, he under Article 14 or she under Article 14 and 21 don't get the same right as somebody from Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan. So this is fundamentally against Article 14. Now, Afghanistan was never a part of India. So why? And Pakistan is already
Harsh
included in
Madhusudhan,
Article
do you
7.
think this charge will be leveled that this law could have been notified years ago? The fact that it is likely to be notified before the election shows that the aim was always political.
Well, the aim in democracy should be political. There's nothing wrong with a political aim.
Exactly.
So the idea that if it is helping some Hindus from 3 countries, therefore it should not help other Hindus is too clever by half. No other party is even talking about helping these Hindus from these 3 countries. So 3 is better than 0. We'll start with 3, then we'll expand. I'm sure Tahseen will help a global right of return for Hindus, just like there is in Israel for Jews. I'm sure by his logic, he'll be very happy to support that. Now, when it comes to UCC, Tahseen has again very cleverly said that, oh, there is Special Marriage Act 1954. Well, that's optional. Just like, dowry is illegal in India, it's not optional whether it's legal or illegal, you can opt in. Similarly, polygamy in India should be illegal, and that should include whatever provision he's talking about in Goa, above 35 if you don't have a male child. I'm completely against that. We need same uniform, common, religion-neutral laws in India, and they have to begin state by state, because that, again, just like I said in CAA, is better than not starting at all. The point is very simple. The context of all this is the partition of India, which happened in the name of religion. There, Muslim Pakistan was created, and therefore, Muslim majority members from Islamic republics on the border are not prioritized. They are not said no to, they just are not prioritized. Similarly to the Lautenberg Amendment, which we had from the Soviet Union, and the Specter Amendment from Iran. Only non-Muslims are allowed and helped. Now, as people talk about Ahmadis and Shias, well, the first foreign minister of Pakistan was an Ahmadi. The fact that subsequently Sunni Muslims became Qatar and declared Ahmadis Kafirs is not the fault of Hindu majority India.
Okay. Meanwhile, there was enforcement directed action against 2 opposition netas today. RJD Supremo Lalu Yadav appeared before the investigating agency after he was summoned in the cash for job scam. An ED team also reached the Delhi residence of Jharkhand Chief Minister Hemant Soren. Soren, however, wasn't present at his house. The probe agency says they're trying to trace him.
2 top leaders of the India bloc, Lalu Yadav and Hemant Soren, faced the heat in corruption probes. The ED questioned RJD leader Lalu Yadav at its office in Patna on Monday in the alleged land for job scam. Former Bihar Deputy Chief Minister Tejasvi Yadav is the next in line. His questioning in the same case is scheduled on Tuesday. Lalu's family was barred from meeting him during the questions that ran into many hours.
पहले तो हमें अंदर जाने नहीं दिया गया। थोड़ी देर के बाद उनको हमने कहा कि उनको 1 घंटे के अंदर उनको दवा देनी है, क्योंकि घर से वो नाश्ता करके आए थे और उनको 1.5 घंटे के बाद दवा देनी होती है। वो दवा मैं उनको दे करके आई, कोई बातचीत उनसे नहीं हुई। एक बीमार इंसान को आप 7-8 घंटे से अंदर बिठा के रखे हुए हैं, तो मुझे लगता है कि अब इतने प्रश्न भी ईडी के पास नहीं है जो लालू जी से पूछ रहे होंगे।
Lalu Yadav family is accused of taking land at cheap rates as bribes in exchange for jobs given when he was the Union Railway Minister.
नौकरी के बदले जमीन ली क्या? जवाब इसका देना है ना, इसका जवाब नहीं देंगे। अपने समाज के लोगों से भी जमीन ली, तो जवाब इसका देना पड़ेगा। इसका जवाब तो नहीं है, तो ईडी सवाल तो पूछेगी।
An ED team also reached JMM Chief and Jharkhand Chief Minister Hemant Soren's Delhi residence on Monday to question him. Soren, who was told to make himself available for questioning, however, did a vanishing act. He has written a letter to the ED claiming that he has already answered questions by the agency earlier. Soren claims that the ED did not ask him questions about the alleged proceeds of the crime, as mentioned in the ECIR. The Chief Minister accused the ED of conducting a politically motivated roving inquiry. He claimed that ED is trying to character assassinate him. Soren offered to appear for questioning on Wednesday.
माननीय मुख्यमंत्री दिल्ली गए, लौट भी आएंगे, और 31 तारीख को तो 1 बजे उनको बुलाया ही गया।
Many opposition leaders, including Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, are facing investigation by the ED and CBI. Kejriwal has skipped 4 summons by the ED for questioning in the Delhi liquor scam case. Opposition parties have expressed fears that their leaders could be arrested in the run-up to the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. With Munish Pandey, Shreya Chatterjee and Aditya Vaibhav, Bureau Report, India Today.
While the government is in top gear when it comes to implementing its ideological agenda, Shahzad, Poonawalla, the charge by the opposition will be that the ED action at this time against the likes of a Hemant Soren, against the likes of a Lalu Yadav, are part of the government's attempt to intimidate the opposition.
Rahul, 14 parties went to the Supreme Court saying that ED is being misused against us, and the Supreme Court sent them packing. All of these cases that you see have reached the Supreme Court either at bail stage, and Supreme Court, High Courts have denied bail, not just under the PMLA law, under ED cases, but even in CBI cases. And in fact, people like Manish Sisodia and people like Sanjay Singh are in jail for months on end now. And in fact, let me also tell you that the Congress party itself celebrates when the action is taken on the likes of Sanjay Singh or on Manish Sisodia, saying that the ED is doing perfectly well there. On the other hand, if somebody else is acted upon within the Congress fold or within somebody who's close to them, then they say that the ED is being misused. The fact of the matter is that this kind of doublespeak cannot work. And in fact, if Tahseen is still on the panel, Tahseen himself, and I have the video of Tahseen, said that Kejriwal is absolutely corrupt, action should be taken on him. Now today he will conveniently take another stand. Tahseen Poonawalla even made a last comment. He said that the Special Marriage Act covers everything that UCC covers. What about adoption? What about inheritance? So, these kinds of claims are made because you don't represent a political party. You can deviate from their stand, but come on television wearing a different face. But I don't think that that is something that Tahseen should do. If he has the integrity, he should take the stand that the Congress party is taking.
Harsh Gupta, the fact that these agencies are active just before the polls, and while of course you can argue that these are cases that haven't been found to be illegitimate, in many cases evidence has indeed been found, but it's also equally true that the action doesn't seem to be as spirited when it comes to members of the ruling government, even if and when they have cases against them.
I think, as Shahzad said, the Supreme Court is the final authority on this. If I remember correctly, as Chief Minister Narendra Modi used to answer questions for hours and hours. If I'm not wrong, Amit Shah, as Home Minister of Gujarat, was in fact briefly imprisoned as well. So I think the point remains that the justice system is fair. It was fair eventually for Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah as well. So let the process go through the courts. There might be a delay, but there's not going to fundamentally be any injustice on average. But beyond that, I can only say that what is irrelevant is for the opposition parties to, instead of victimizing and crying victim about EVMs and the ED, etc., should just play with the process as it has been going for more than 75 years.
Rahul Verma, opposition obviously cites these actions by the enforcement agencies to say this is why there is overreach by the government, this is why democracy is imperiled. But as far as many voters are concerned, they actually see action being taken against perceivably corrupt netas, and far from being aghast and upset, they actually seem to be liking what's going on.
True, absolutely. Rahul, in your remarks, you covered most of the points. Many of the people who are being probed, there are legitimate reasons for being probed, and there are charges for which there seems to be some basis. But it is also equally true that BJP is being selective in usage of ED and in all kinds of agencies against the politicians who are not part of BJP or alliance. You can cite many examples of politicians who, when were part of opposition, were being probed, but once they joined the BJP, those charges have been dropped. So yes, BJP is being selective in usage of ED, but the masses are going to like the usage of these agencies against politicians, because corruption is an issue on which voters care about a lot. And for a long period of time, many of these politicians have been sort of accused of corruption, and no action was being taken against senior politicians for a very, very long time. So What has changed in this government of last 5-7 years is that action is being taken on corruption.
Shahzad, but the charge of selectivity, the fact that yes, of course, action is taken against netas who have corruption charges against them, but once they're in the BJP, or if they're in the BJP, till they're in the BJP, suddenly the agencies aren't as enthusiastic.
Let me give you two examples, because Rahul, I remember all the time you say your promo, you say that I am the one who speaks with facts and data. So let me give you facts and data. There was a leader called Pratap Sarnaik, who was with the Uddhav Sena. There was an ongoing case of TOPS case against him. The Uddhav Sena, when it was running the MVA government, shut the case against him. In fact, even after he joined, along with Eknath Shinde, our faction, we have gone to ED and said that the case will continue, no closure. And this has been reported by your reporter Vidya. It's an India Today report. Second example, Mukul Roy. You remember we had taken him and he was our vice president. Even then he was grilled by the CBI when he was vice president of BJP. And today the TMC, which used to abuse him, has now happily taken him back. So why did they take Mr. Mukul Roy back?
No, but those are relatively insignificant leaders. There are charges against Ajit Pawar. What about the charges against Ajit Pawar, who the Prime Minister accused of being involved in a 70,000 crore rupee scam? What about charges against Hemanta Biswa Sarma, who when he was in the Congress you had very serious problems with?
I'll answer. Hemanta Biswa Sarma has no charges or cases against him. In fact, some petitioners went to High Court of Guwahati and he has been absolved even by the High Court. As far as Ajit Pawar is concerned, if there are any cases against him, those cases will go on. There's absolutely nothing, no case has stopped against any leader. Give me one instance where
but he hasn't been called by any of the agencies since he became Deputy CM for questioning. When did any agency call Ajit Pawar for questioning after he joined hands with you?
No, when has he been called? Even when he was LOP under MVA government for a very long period of time. I don't decide that the agencies will decide. If the agencies feel the need to call or summon somebody, they will call or summon that person. If they don't feel the need, just because they have to do monkey balancing, doesn't mean that they will call a leader from one side because they have to call two leaders from the other side. And by the way, Rahul, tell me, Lalu Prasad has been convicted 4 times. Pawan Modi has been convicted from the DMK. Chalo, you tell me, what about the convictions? Has the UPA or the Congress party taken a stand on those leaders who are convicted? Why doesn't Arvind Kejriwal take a stand on the leaders who have been convicted? He used to say that pehle istifa fir janch. Today he is not even going for the janch. And he is in alliance with Hemant Soren, Lalu Prasad, and he lectures about misuse of ED. So don't buy these arguments, and please show me one instance where any case has stopped. If any case has stopped and it has been illegally stopped, they can go and challenge it in court. Okay. They have the likes of Kapil Sibal, Abhishek Manu Singhvi and others in their...
Okay, so you've said what you have to. I think the viewers who are watching are discerning enough to be able to tell whether all corruption cases are being pursued equally vigorously or whether there is selectivity in the manner in which these cases are being pursued. So that will be decided not just in the legal court but in the court of public opinion as well. I want to thank our guests for joining us. We've covered different aspects, but what's very clear is that the BJP is on a roll. The grandmasters of modern day political chess are up against a group of people who can't even decide what move to make on the chessboard. And if that's the battle against these master strategists and those who can't even figure out where to move the chess pieces, well, I'm afraid there's only one way this battle ends in the end.